What I think is really important is focusing on exactly the body position of the suspect.
It's a viral video you think you've seen, but tonight a new perspective revealed during a news conference by the Salinas police chief. Plus, community leaders give impassioned pleas to the community of Salinas after violence erupts last night. What they're asking people to do and their thoughts on the investigation. And we hear from family members and close friends of two men killed, one by Salinas police officers and another during the protest against them.
Now, your Don't Wait weather with Norm Hoffman.
Ridge offshore, low interior. We continue with the low clouds at the coast, and our futurecast shows those low clouds moving in. Expect that we will have cloudy skies all night, and expect partly cloudy inland, mostly cloudy. Temperatures in the 50s, temps in the morning in the upper 40s to low to mid 50s. We'll have a warm up over the weekend. I'll have that in a little bit. That's your Don't Wait weather.
In high definition, this is Central Coast News right now.
Tonight we're getting our first look at new surveillance video released by the Salinas Police Department. Good evening, I'm Spencer Washburn. We have team coverage tonight on more rallies in Salinas, as well as what Salinas police had to say opening up for the first time since Tuesday's officer-involved shooting, the second in as many weeks. Our Jake Reiner standing by right now in Salinas, and in the top right corner of your screen there, that new close-up cell phone video released by police today. But we want to begin with Marissa Schwartz, who was at the news conference today where the police chief and other city leaders talked about flaring tension here in our community. Marissa?
That's right, Spencer. Today, Salinas police released this surveillance video you see behind me of video from cameras near the scene of Tuesday's officer-involved shooting at Sanborn and Del Monte. I'm sorry, that was Sanborn and Del Monte. They explained it step by step and matched up with cell phone video that's already been seen on social media.
The video that we're going to see is not video that's been released yet. This is the first time you've seen it.
Using surveillance video from a nearby bakery, Police Chief Kelly McMillin took us scene by scene through Tuesday's deadly officer-involved shooting. He describes the officer's initial contact with suspect 44-year-old Carlos Mejia. McMillin says Mejia comes toward police holding 8-inch gardening shears.
The compelling part of this video, particularly in the upper part of the television screen, is where he's swinging them around and back and forth towards the police officers.
McMillin says officers tried to use a stun gun twice. He says the first time the stun gun didn't work, the second time it was ineffective.
He continually holds them by one handle, and they swing open and close.
Mejia is seen walking away from the two officers, gardening shears in hand. McMillin says the officer's priority was to arrest Mejia while trying to keep him away from the bakery or getting away. He says the pivotal moment came when officers had nothing to put between themselves and Mejia.
Right before the shots rang out, you'll see as he's walking away, taking steps, he'll plant his right foot, he'll shift his weight back to his left foot, and you'll see his right heel come up and pivot around as he begins turning back towards the officer.
That's when McMillin says both officers fired their guns. Now, Salinas police is doing its own internal investigation into this officer-involved shooting and the one earlier this month at Mi Pueblo Shopping Center. They plan to forward both cases to the Monterey County District Attorney's Office, the San Francisco Bureau of the FBI, and the Department of Justice for outside evaluation. Back to you, Spencer.
All right, Marissa, thank you. Now to our Jake Reiner, who is live in Salinas, where there were more rallies tonight, this time with a much different tone, however, than last night. Right, Jake?
Yeah, Spencer, I'm outside the Bread Box Recreation Center on North Sanborn, where just a few hours ago, a protest for peace. This was not a dig at Salinas police for the officer-involved shooting, nor was it an attack on the violent protests from last night. The messages are clear and simple.
We want peace! We want peace! Let's talk, not fight! Let's talk, not fight!
A drastic turnaround from last night, trading in flashing lights and riot gear for peaceful signs and coordinated chants. All of this organized by children in Salinas.
We went from a little thing to a big thing.
12-year-old Brianna Sandoval started it yesterday with just a piece of binder paper. Then people began to filter in.
I feel proud of myself.
The group gathered on Sanborn and acted as a force field against the negative signs. They assembled on the other side of the street.
Let's have peaceful practices and demonstrations in order to be able to be heard in the right way.
Community organizer Raul Damian Tapia says the goal is to open the dialogue within the community to find a way to ease the tension with the people and the police. One way Brianna Sandoval says they can accomplish this is to look to the kids.
We could give them ideas to the adults and they can help us start a big thing like this.
After the protests, everyone went inside and pitched their ideas for how to attack the violence in Salinas peacefully. Live in Salinas, Jake Reiner, your Central Coast News.
All right, Jake, thank you for that report. During the violence last night, one man was arrested for allegedly attempting to incite a riot. Officers say 26-year-old Diego Ruiz taunted officers. He's accused of antagonizing a police canine and gathering followers as he pushed through the crowds. Officers say he eventually took a fighting stance and challenged them. A Seaside officer made the initial arrest and was then assisted by Salinas police officers. Ruiz has since bailed out but faces several charges. During that news conference earlier today, many prominent community leaders pleaded for an end to this violence as well. Have a listen.
What upsets me is the fact that last night we had people doing a legitimate protest and they allowed it to get out of control. And I would hope that we've all learned from this incident that we want to work together to make this a safer community.
We need our community to keep calm, keep the peace, and allow the process of investigation to move forward to get the answers that they're seeking.
There's going to be an investigation. Let's let it happen. But we need to heal our community.
Just some of the comments from tonight. Now, during the demonstrations last night, let's not forget a man was shot and killed. Police say he was standing in front of his home when it happened. An officer tried to administer CPR but was hit in the head with a bottle. Today, we were able to speak with the victim's family. Marco Garcia and his family just moved into their Salinas home a couple weeks ago. He told us his brother, Constantino Garcia, got here Saturday and was planning to work in the strawberry fields. Garcia says his family wasn't even part of the protest, but quickly became a victim of it.
We left to go buy some bread, and he came outside and was just watching what was happening. He was standing right there and not sure what happened, but when we came back, he was lying on the ground.
Now, his brother leaves behind a wife and young child. Garcia also says he's angry because, according to police, up to 100 people may have witnessed this shooting, but no one to this point is stepping forward to help them find Constantino's killer. Now, we do have an update tonight on that police officer that was hit in the head with a bottle. Chief McMillin says the officer is recovering well and is out of the hospital tonight. He did have a significant blow to his head. He hasn't been identified to this point. We also spoke to the roommate of the man shot and killed by police on Tuesday night on North Sanborn Road near Del Monte Boulevard. She says Carlos Mejia wasn't a violent person, and despite the surveillance video and 911 calls, she doesn't believe he would threaten a woman or police with those gardening shears.
He didn't deserve to die like that. That was an injustice. When somebody comes here to this country to work, to earn their money with sweat and tears, and not to rob people.
Now, she says he always carried those gardening shears because that's what he worked with, doing odd jobs when he could. We're going to continue, of course, to follow this story as it develops and bring all that to you. You can also visit our website, KIONrightnow.com, for updates. And you can also find instant coverage and conversation by following Central Coast News on Facebook and Twitter. Meantime, today, more police drama inside a Monterey County courtroom. King City police officers Mario Motu Sr. and former Chief Nick Baldiviez were in court. They're two of 6 King City police officers charged with illegal activity in a case that drew national attention. A judge will now decide whether there's sufficient evidence to bring those two to trial. Baldiviez is accused of illegally giving a city-owned patrol car to Officer Motu. They both face charges of felony embezzlement. Now, there's no arguing this is a complicated case, so we're going to try to simplify it as much as we can for you. It involves several documents from 4 years ago and how much key players can remember about how exactly those documents were filled out. The prosecution called several witnesses to the stand, among them City Manager Michael Powers, the assistant to former Chief Baldiviez, Monterey County County and District Attorney investigators and the manager of the King City DMV. At the center of this case, a police car that Modu Sr. apparently wanted to take ownership of. Now, defense attorneys have argued that the car was legally transferred to Modu, but the documentation authorizing that has been called into question. The manager from the Department of Motor Vehicles testified, saying they had authorized Modu's ownership of the police car because he had all the proper paperwork. She testified that she remembers the transaction, and at the time she said it seemed unusual that the city would gift a car to an employee. The former director of the Monterey County Water Resources Agency sentenced today. Stephen Collins will spend 270 days in county jail and 3 years on felony probation. He pleaded no contest to the charges, including grand theft against Ocean Mist Farms. Collins was at the center of a high-profile conflict of interest case that ultimately brought down the $400 million regional desal water project 3 years ago. Prosecutors say Collins was sitting on the board for the regional desal project while also getting paid by the company ultimately hired to run it. He was also ordered to pay back Ocean Mist more than $89,000. All right, in tonight's Ag Report, great news for Semper Fresh Farms. It's established a partnership with the Veterans Transition Center of Monterey County, the United Veterans Council, and the VA. Now, it's a new local organic farm company that started operating completely with veterans at the beginning of the month. Company leaders say it's the next step in making it a legitimate veterans outreach program. Anyone who wants to help get things started can attend the Planting Festival. That's on June 26th at noon. They're located on the 300 block of Corral de Tierra Road. There will be food, wine, and live entertainment. It's the most widely used extremely hazardous substance in Monterey County. Salinas Valley held its 21st annual Ammonia Safety Day today at the Salinas Community Center. A timely reminder after one of the biggest ammonia leaks this past fall at the Growers Express building in Salinas. That leak caused the equipment to freeze and limited visibility. In that case, a swift and carefully executed response kept the situation from becoming much worse. Companies use ammonia to keep harvested crops cool. If there's a leak, it's primarily a threat to those workers inside.
Year over year, we talk about improvements in design technologies for all types of ammonia and refrigeration applications.
As Martinez says, everything from valves to the controls on the truck need to be just right to keep food fresh and employees safe. Government weather forecasters are predicting fewer hurricanes than usual in the Atlantic this season. But it's not all good news. They're also stressing that it only takes one major storm, as we've seen in the past, to do a lot of damage and impact millions of lives. A California man accused of kidnapping his girlfriend's 15-year-old daughter a decade ago and repeatedly sexually assaulting her in court today. The woman, now 25 years old, came forward this week. Police say 41-year-old Isidro Garcia threatened to have the victim's family deported if she ran away. He's also accused of beating and sexually assaulting her repeatedly and fathering her child in 2012. But neighbors say she had her own car, a job, and took Zumba classes, and are questioning that story.
There's a whole myriad of possible reasons why she's making this up.
She did, on 2 occasions, the detectives believe, tried to escape. She was caught and beaten for her efforts.
The young woman arrived from Mexico only a few months before she disappeared. The suspect's arraignment has been postponed until June 9th. Actor Michael Jace has been formally charged with murder, accused in the shooting death of his 40-year-old wife April on Monday. 51-year-old played a cop on FX's long-running police drama The Shield. Now, Jace called 911 after the shooting. His 2 children were in the home at the time. The official unveiling today of a new ad campaign at the San Diego airport from PETA urging people to avoid SeaWorld. It's meant to criticize the way the park handles killer whales, also the focus of that controversial film Blackfish. SeaWorld has called PETA an extremist organization and says its animals are happy and healthy. A few big stories nationally to tell you about now. More than 3,200 residents near Flagstaff, Arizona, keeping a close eye on a wildfire as it burns out of control near a popular state park and potentially toward their homes. Fire has burned at least 4,800 acres as tourist season is getting underway ahead of Memorial Day weekend here. Strong winds and the tinder dry forest are fueling this fire, which increased more than tenfold since Tuesday. Residents are clearing out brush.
At this point, we've got what we need, and stuff is stuff in terms of the house, and you ultimately worry the most about wind and trees.
Now that man you just heard from has packed his trailer with irreplaceable paintings and his family's keepsakes. Firefighters are hoping a chance of rain tomorrow will actually help alleviate some of the problems there. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, lawmakers and the president's own special investigator are trying to get to the bottom of a growing crisis over veterans' health care. Rob Neighbors was in Phoenix today. He met with staff of the hospital at the center of the VA scandal. As many as 40 veterans may have died while waiting for treatment at that facility.
What does the president want to know here? What is your message, sir?
Well, some lawmakers are calling for VA Secretary Eric Shinseka's removal. Others are pressing to give him more flexibility. Some would like Shinseki to have the power to fire executives in his agency. Some positive local news now. The California condor found with elevated levels of lead in its blood was released back into the wild today. Ventana, as she was called, spent the last couple weeks at the Oakland Zoo. Doctors administered special treatments to help keep her alive. She was the first bird raised for breeding by the Ventana Wildlife Society. They had captured 6 birds to test for lead several weeks ago at Pinnacles National Park when they discovered this sick bird. All right, it's nearly Memorial Day weekend. We're looking forward to it. And our Norm Hoffman has a look at your forecast coming up. Plus, what could have been a deadly accident caught on camera. We've got details from this amazing crash still ahead.